Carson Beck has reversed his decision to enter the NFL draft and is slated to enter the transfer portal. We need to talk about what this means for Georgia, what this means for college football, and frankly, how I think this is a great thing for Carson Beck. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. Thank you for being here. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think that Carson Beck should continue to play college football, or should he have entered the NFL draft? And hit that subscribe button, ring the bell so you don't miss any of the segments that we upload here, as we are fast approaching 129,000 subscribers to this community. As Rockets, we have a good, strong conversation about what is happening in the world of college football today. And today, just before Notre Dame and Penn State kick off the Orange Bowl, Carson Beck wants to let the world know that he is up for sale. This is pretty outstanding news for him, and I think for college football. This season did not go the way that Carson Beck wanted it to go. After a season last year where he led the SEC in passing attempts, and just short of passing percentage, was 3,941 yards, 24 TDs, and just 6 interceptions. Key on that 6 interceptions here. This year, he threw more passes, but he didn't complete as many, just 64% to 72% last year, 3,485 yards. And he threw more TDs, 28 to 24, but he threw 12 interceptions this year as opposed to just 6. And some of this comes down to just the caliber of receiver that Georgia had this season. They were not good at receiver. There's just no getting around that. Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey leaving this program really did have an effect. It's not to say that Oscar Delp isn't good. He's just not Brock Bowers. There's no shame in that. The same thing I think is true of guys like Dominic Lovett and Dylan Bell and Arian Smith, and we can keep going here, but there was a marked deficiency at receiver. I think losing Ra Thomas, for reasons that you need to lose Ra Thomas for, frankly, did not help this situation. And Georgia has never really been that interested in making sure that they got the best wide receiver room in college football. They've always had a really good wide receiver, pass catcher. George Pickens comes to mind. I mentioned Brock Bowers. I even think Darnell Washington just didn't get to do enough at Georgia. I think that dude was outstanding. I just wanted to see him play more football. And then, Eric Gilbert has been a tragedy, a cautionary tale, but they just haven't been that interested in it in the way that, say, LSU was in 2019, or Alabama in 2020, or Ohio State, even this season, or the season before, or the season before, or the season before. They just haven't had that high on their list of priorities. Oregon has been more interested in stockpiling great wide receivers than Georgia has. And for a great passer to be a great passer, you got to have great receivers. That's usually hand in hand. The best receiver in the conference usually is paired with one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. Didn't go that way for Carson Beck. With his injury that sidelined him for the rest of the season following the first half of the SEC championship game, Gunnar Stockton got the start against Notre Dame. They lost that game, but it's very clear that Mike Bobo and Kirby Smart have made a decision to give Gunnar control, meaning Jaden Rashada went into the transfer portal not long ago, and now we've got Carson Beck there with Ryan Puglisi behind Gunnar Stockton, and then we've got Ryan Montgomery, who we expect to be the third-string quarterback this season. If you're a Georgia fan, I think you saw this coming, right? You knew that he was not going to be a Georgia football player in 2025. You had to know that. I think what you risk here is a Dylan Gabriel experience, like the one they had at Oklahoma. Is Gunnar Stockton good enough for you to move off on? It doesn't matter at this point. This is how it's got to work. Same thing with Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. I've talked about this. If you think he's going to enter the NFL draft, you let him go. But as with Dylan Gabriel, when Oklahoma thought he was going to enter the NFL draft and he decided not to, they'd already made the decision to go with Jackson Arnold, who had shown promise in that Arizona game, thrown for over 300 yards, 363, 2 TDs, 2 picks in a game they lost, right? This season, it could be that way for Georgia if they're not careful. For Carson Beck, it's an opportunity to do what Cam Ward did. It is the opportunity to do what Dylan Gabriel did. It is to go back into the portal, to come out at a contender, and to put together a resume that has you sitting in New York as a Heisman finalist and thought of as a first-round draft pick at the quarterback position. Whether or not that's true for Dylan Gabriel, we don't know yet. No, but we know it's true for Cam Ward. He's going to be one of the first 2 guys off the board at that position. Could be a top 5 pick. It's that simple for him. He's shown that. I don't know that Carson Beck has the skill set that Cam Ward does, but he is an outstanding passer. He can be very accurate with the ball, and He sees the field well most of the time. You just got to have guys that can catch it. So I look around, I see places like Miami that really need help at the quarterback position. And you can go to other teams that want to contend. I mean, Iowa made a huge splash getting Mark Gronowski to join them up, and all of a sudden I got good things to say about Iowa and their quarterback position because that dude fits their identity. That is what Carson Beck's going to be looking for. I think you look at a place like Wisconsin, perhaps, maybe, I'm not quite so sure about that, or you continue to look around. There's going to be some places that pop up that aren't immediately on our radar where Carson Beck is all of a sudden going to feel like a fit. He's going to command a lot of attention with this, especially given that we've seen John Mateer make upwards of $3 million, depending on who you want to talk to, or Darren Mensa make upwards of $8 million over the next 2 years, if that's what you want to do. The quarterback position has been one where we haven't seen great, outstanding players enter it, like day one caliber guys, but we have seen them command a lot of interest in money. Now, the thing for Carson Beck that he still wants to do outside of individual performances, he'd like to win a national championship. That was the reason that he wanted the job at Georgia. He felt like those championships that he was a part of, they weren't his. They're Stetson Bennett's, and he's got something to that. Mike Bobo's got to think the same thing with Todd Monken and what he's been able to do at Georgia now with the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of folks are already out on Mike Bobo at Georgia, and if his guy, Gunnar Stockton, dude that he helped recruit and is his number one, isn't that good, it's going to be really difficult to keep Mike Bobo in that chair if you are Kirby Smart. I think as I'm looking at college football and I'm looking at the quarterback position and I'm asking myself what it is that I want from it, it's mostly what I think at bottom tier. You want Will Howard, right? If you're expecting to compete for championships, you can have a Drew Aller, right? And you can obviously make it to the Orange Bowl. You can have a Riley Leonard, who's having the best statistical season he's had as a quarterback, but not a 3,000-yard passer, and might be a 1,000-yard rusher by the end of this thing. But I think if I'm looking at Carson Beck, I know that I have receivers that can help him. I know I have an offensive line that can help him. And what I don't have, I can go get. That is going to be really at issue because the money is going to be one thing. It's, do you give him an opportunity to go win championships with what you got there? I'm looking around, and now that we kind of take into account what the quarterback position has turned into, and as far as, hey, you got 3 years to make this thing happen, or we got to find somebody else behind you that we got to give a shot to, it's looking a lot like the NFL in that, you know, some guys don't get their fifth-year contract picked up. They don't get that extension, right, that you're looking for. And they want to go to the next young, possibly brilliant talent at that position. Now, I think there's also some room in here to be kind of inventive, right? So if you are looking around and say you're Cal, I know that you just got a guy. Do you think Carson Beck can help you? Yes. But can you help Carson Beck win a national championship? Probably not. That list is actually not as long as you think it is. It's why I'm already circling Miami. Like it feels like a great place for him. It feels like a great place for them. It feels like they're that close. Like you saw them. They beat Syracuse. They're in the championship game. They're probably playing the college football playoff right now. You're losing a bunch, but you're also returning a bunch. I think I could make that one work. But outside of Miami, I'd be curious to know what you think. Who do you think is a great spot for him to end up with, knowing that someone needs a quarterback? That's the part here. What if Carson Beck ends up at UNC is another great question, right? Bill Belichick goes and gets Carson Beck, a guy that's cerebral, a guy that knows how to get rid of the football, a guy that you can perhaps turn into the kind that can win right away. That's sexy. That's really enticing for both Bill Belichick and North Carolina, but also for Carson Beck. So we'll continue to monitor this situation, but I did want to get out here and talk about it as it's happening. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did Carson Beck make the best decision? And let's follow that one up. Where do you think he should land?